Alright students, good morning and welcome back to development. Right, so we have been taking this lesson for the past 3 classes now, and we went through many concepts of development, what development means. It means differently to different people, different countries have different ideas of development. And in the last class, we also read about what per capita income is, what it means, and how there is so much of disparity in this per capita income in just the states of India, between the northern states and the southern states, and among the northern states also. So, next aspect is, let us learn about the public facilities, how these public facilities actually are a gauge to understand what the development of our country is, how it is, whether it's good, it's bad, or what the state is. Right, so public facilities are the facilities provided by the government to its citizens that are universally available regardless of the income. Right. So a government hospital does not ask the citizen what his income is so that he can get admitted into that hospital. So regardless of his income, that facility is available as long as he is a citizen. Some facilities are essential for other basic services to be used, like electricity. Right. So that is a basic service, electricity, which is available. Facilities satisfy specific individual or community needs, including safety, security, communication, recreation, sport, education, health. These are all community needs, these are all individual needs also which are there, and that is why the public facilities are built towards satisfying these needs. The need for communication. We have telephone lines, we have the postal system. These are all communication which are required. We need recreation. We have public stadiums. We have swimming pools. These are all recreational needs which are satisfied. Similarly, education, health. We have government schools. We have private schools. We have healthcare facilities like hospitals. All these are designed or built towards satisfying specific needs. They improve the government of they sorry very sorry they improve the standard of living of the people. They are provided to better the quality of facilities, better the standard of living. So that is one of the major focus when it comes to public facilities. If I step into a government hospital and I see that it is utterly crowded, no beds available. We have seen these things even in the present COVID situation also. There are no beds available. All the beds are full. There's no oxygen tanks available. All these things we have been reading in the news also. So the question is, whether our health facilities, our health services have actually failed us in providing what is actually required for us. That question does come. Has it improved our standard of living in any way? That question again does come. Has it made our standard of living better? Uh, but we feel that our public facilities during these COVID situation may have failed us to a large extent. Many NGOs, many private people, they came forward. They offered help, wherein the situation should not have arisen if the government would have spent sufficient amount of money in making the situation much more better, a much more robust education and much more robust health system. If it was adopted by the government right from the beginning, then maybe the situation would have been very much different. So they are designed towards improving the standard of living, but has enough been done to improve these public facilities? That question always arises. So now the big question is India a developed nation? That is the big question. After reading all these slides about what development is, what are the measures for development, and what the public facilities are there in India, the big question is India a developed nation? Let us discuss this further to understand where we actually stand, where India actually stands in the scale of development. So the Human Development Report. This is published by the United Nations Development. Sorry, it is a statistical report. For measuring development, right? The UNDP stands for United Nations Development Program, and it publishes the Human Development Index, that is the HDI. It compares countries on the basis of their per capita income, health status, and education levels. So what the United Nations Development Program, what it actually does is it compares countries and it publishes a human development index. So we can, as a nation, we know where we stand on the global index. So it ranks a total of 177 countries on the basis of its citizen standards of living and well-being. So now let us see where India stands on this Human Development Index. So here we have countries, we have the per capita income of these countries in dollars, we have the life expectancy at birth, we have the literacy rate, we have the gross enrollment ratio, that is the number of children studying, and then we have the Human Development Index rank, right? So right on top over here we have USA, it's the 8th rank, because ahead of USA we still have plenty of European countries like Sweden, Switzerland, which are ranked much more higher. But here we have taken these countries over here. If you see compare the per capita income, the difference between USA and India is it's enormous. In fact, the per capita income of Sri Lanka also is more than that of India. So this slide, I'll just keep it on for some time, and I want you all to go through this and compare the different indices. If you see, Sri Lanka, our closest neighbor over here, they are way ahead of us actually. Nepal, we have Bangladesh, Myanmar, Pakistan. You see the literacy rate in Myanmar is much more higher than that of India also. Its literacy rate in Myanmar is 90%, while that of India is 61%. The gross enrollment ratio of Nepal is marginally higher as compared to India. It's 61 for Nepal and 60 for India. So there's a lot of places where our neighbors are also a little bit ahead of us. Right. So that being said and done, and this being viewed, let us go ahead and see what is the situation in India. So the key over here, one of the most important aspect over here for the development of any nation is a word which we will hear much more often now, is sustainable development. So development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It contains of two key concepts: sustainable development. The concept of needs, in particular the essential needs, and then the idea of limitations imposed by the state of technology and social organizations on the environment's ability to meet present and future needs. There is a sort of limitation of the resources occurs when human impacts can be repaired by the earth's natural and biological process. Human activities are natural habitats, abundance and diversity of flora and fauna, extraction and use of natural resources within natural replacement rates. So here what we are seeing for the key for sustainable development is basically the usage of our resources. We have been using our resources to such a huge extent that we might be at a point of no return. We might not be able to replenish these natural resources back to the state what it was earlier. So we need to look at different kinds of resources. You already read about resources in your 8th standard. Newer kinds of resources which can give us more renewable forms of energy, like solar, like wind. These kinds of energy sources need to be looked at so that we can have a more sustainable development in the future. The idea of limitations, what it says over here is basically, you can take the examples of fossil fuels. In the case of fossil fuels, they are at such a stage where in our entire globe, our Earth, might run out of fossil fuels in the next 50 years. In the next 50 years, that's very much within your lifetimes, you might see a situation where the fossil fuels are totally over. There are no more fossil fuels to use. I hope everybody knows the meaning of fossil fuels. It is like crude oil, petroleum, the coal, all these things they come under fossil fuels, right? So, sustainable development, groundwater and sustainable development. India is the largest groundwater user in the world. Groundwater is by way of bore wells, by way of wells, whatever water we use from the ground, that is the groundwater usage in our country. Groundwater has played a significant role in the maintenance of India's economy, environment, and standard of living. Groundwater depletion has become an increasingly important policy concern, and the factors driving this expansion include poor public irrigation and drinking water delivery, new pump technologies, the flexibility and timelines of groundwater supply, and government electricity subsidies. What is happening over here is there are many things which are actually responsible for the depletion of this groundwater. Uh, Flexibility and timelines of government of groundwater supply, government electricity subsidies for the pump sets which are run in the fields, the drinking water facilities which are being given, public irrigation, all these factors are a major contributor towards the depleting levels of groundwater in our country. After groundwater, we have to look into the energy, what we use. Renewable energy is the energy which is generated from natural resources. We all know this and we have already read this in previous classes in the 8th standard. Sun, wind, rain, these are all renewable forms of energy. Rain not so much, but you can always harvest rainwater harvesting and make it renewable. They are available in plenty and by far the most cleanest sources of energy available on this planet. Yes. Non-renewable energy is energy which is taken from the sources that are available on the earth in limited quantity, cannot be regenerated within a short span of time, as the fossil fuels have been talking about. They are not environmentally friendly and can have serious effect on our health. That is absolutely right. Right. So a difference between a renewable source of energy and non-renewable sources of energy, this is something which we have already learned again, but we have to go through it so that we can understand sustainable development in a much better way. Renewable sources of energy are available in abundant quantity and free to use, whereas renewable sources of energy, non-renewable sources are not unlimited, they are limited, and regeneration is extremely slow. Uh, Low carbon emissions from renewable sources of energy and they are considered to be environmentally friendly, whereas non-renewable sources of energy release toxic gases are environmentally very harmful and are of course a major cause of global warming. Renewable sources of energy are not cheap initially, they are little high at cost because the technology is relatively new, but that will change very soon. Maybe in the next 5 years, we will see renewable sources of energy overtaking non renewable sources of energy, which are very cheap for use at present, the non renewable sources. And renewable sources of energy create ways to we need to create ways to harness these renewable sources of energy. And non-renewable sources of energy, we need to see ways to stop their usage and make our dependence much more lesser in the future. So, environmental degradation. It includes air pollution, water pollution, garbage, natural resources depletion, falling groundwater tables, loss of biodiversity, and degradation of forest and agricultural land. It is a deterioration of the environment through depletion of resources such as air, water, and soil, the destruction of ecosystems, and the extinction of wildlife. defined as any change or disturbance in the environment perceived to be deleterious or undesirable. Right. So environmental degradation. We have again learned about this in the previous classes in your 8th standard, that the way in which we use our sources of energy, the way in which we pollute our environment, it includes air pollution, it includes water pollution, and also includes soil pollution, groundwater pollution. This is mainly because of the increasing use of chemicals which we have in our agricultural methods, and also the increasing chemical output or the chemical waste from the industries which is not scientifically disposed. All these things put together have caused environmental degradation to such an extent that global warming is a phenomena which is going to lead to the destruction of our environment altogether. So crude oil and issues around it. Yes. So yeah, as I was saying, Middle East, it has a reserve of 89 billion tons of crude oil, and it would last for the next 93 years. The Middle East. So we are in the year 2021. So by next 100 years, 21, you will not be getting any crude oil from the Middle East. Yes. And US, it has 4 billion tons of reserve crude oil, and it would last for the next 10 years at the most, not more than that. And the world put together has 137 billion reserves of crude oil. It would last for a maximum of the next 43 years, that's all. So after this period of time, there would going to be a severe shortage of crude oil, and when there is a shortage, definitely the prices are going to go up, and we would need to reduce our reliance on crude oil at that time. So oil provides 40% of traded energy, 90% of transportation fuel, and is critical for agriculture and generation of electrical power. This is the present situation of the world. Failure to recognize the consequence of depletion leads to international tensions, with countries vying with each other for access to the remaining oil supply, half of which lies just in the Middle East countries. Right? Due to the high demand, erratic supply, and difficult exploration methods are causing oil prices to soar or go up globally. India, being an oil importer, has to risk has of its economy always being exposed to global seesaw trends. So many times, economists call our entire global economy as a oil economy. The reason why it is called as an oil economy, because oil plays such a huge crucial role. Without this crude oil, we cannot even imagine running of the global economy without this crude oil. That is how much dependent we are for this. Just imagine any kind of transportation requires oil, requires crude oil, it requires petrol, requires diesel. These things are a requirement. Without that, we cannot even imagine transportation. Without transportation, you cannot imagine world trade. You cannot imagine goods being transported from different countries, between different countries. So that is the amount of dependence that we have on crude oil. The energy which you have at your home, the power, that is electricity which is supplied to you, is from fossil fuels. It comes from burning of coal, the thermal power plants that we have. That is from burning of coals. So again, you cannot imagine to have electricity at your house without these fossil fuels. Right. So that's it for this chapter actually, the entire lesson on development. There are a few more examples given in your textbooks. Please read them, please go through them. And once that is done, you will be able to understand this lesson much more clearly. You can always revisit, sorry, you can always revisit these videos once again and again to get your concepts more clear. So once this is through, I'll be posting a few assignments for you which you can do in your portfolio also. I will let you know what those portfolio activities are. And as usual, please do stay safe, stay at home, and we will meet once again in the next class. Thank you, take care, and have a good day.